Well, hi everyone. My name is George Smith. I am the director of Michigan State University AgBioResearch and the Senior Associate Dean for Research in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. I have with me today my good friend and colleague Eric Hegg, who is the Dean of the College of Natural Science. There's a strong history of partnerships in research that makes a difference in the short term and long term for our agricultural industries in the state, research that makes a difference in terms of our natural resources and the environment, and research that makes a difference at the community level for every Michigander in the state, people in this country, and across the globe. So we're here today to talk about a new research theme on the Michigan State campus that I know Eric and I are both really excited about. That's the topic of One Health. So Eric, welcome. We'll look forward to the conversation. This is going to be fun.
Well, thanks, George. It's a real pleasure to be here.
All right. So let's dive in. So let's talk a little bit about One Health. What is One Health? What does it mean? And how is that significant in the context of the breadth of MSU research and the research done in the College of Natural Science?
Well, yeah, thanks for that question, George. And as you pointed out, this is truly a passion of mine. You know, there's lots of different ways to think about One Health, and this is not a particularly new concept, but it's kind of at its highest level. The way that I think about One Health is the fact that it's impossible to separate out the health of the planet from the health of the animals, from the health of the plants, from the health of humans, that we're all interconnected. And therefore, what impacts one area will ultimately impact the other areas too. And so if we really want to think about improving the health of humans or the health of our plants and our crops or the ecosystems, we really have to take a holistic approach. And that's to me, what One Health is all about. And this is something that a number of people in Nat Sci are really quite passionate about.
Yeah, it really is an exciting venue for the future. It's a way to kind of pull together investigators to form new collaborations and to think more holistically about the work we do, leading to discoveries that will make a difference for economic development in the state, protecting our natural resources, which we know make Michigan special, and for food security and livelihood of people across the globe. So it's really going to be an exciting new effort on campus that I think can have tremendous potential. And the history of partnerships between your college, AgBioResearch, and the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources will really be central to this. So human health is an important research area on campus. Your college does work in that area. College of Agriculture and Natural Resources has research that directly or indirectly is linked to human health and within the broader context of the AgBioResearch portfolio. So human health is central, but you did a great job describing the breadth and the interconnection between plants, animals, soil, the environment, and human health. So talk a little bit more about some specifics or maybe some specific examples of that interconnection and how research in some of the non-human health areas can really impact human health and be beneficial to people in Michigan and in the planet, across the planet.
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for that question. So there's lots, as I mentioned earlier, there's lots of different ways to think about One Health. But when I'm talking about it with people outside the university, one of the areas that I like to kind of focus on is what I call the host microbe interactions. To me, that's sort of the central part of One Health. How do microbes interact with the various hosts? And we all know about, for instance, the gut microbiome and how it's important to diet for, digesting our food and things like that. And we also know that there can be microbes that get in our gut that like are not good, right? And so microbes can be in our gut can be both beneficial, and they can also be pathogenic. And we know that because we've kind of lived it in our own daily experiences. But what people may not know is it doesn't end there. There are these host microbe interactions in multiple areas, basically throughout the human body. It's in your lungs, it's on your skin, over and over. There are these interactions that are occurring, and they can, in all of these places, they can be both beneficial or they can be pathogenic. But it doesn't end just with humans, of course, because animals have exactly the same sorts of interactions going on, as do plants. Many people don't think about that, but this is critically important for plants as well. Microbes can be really beneficial to help the plants bring the nutrients that they need into their system. They can be really important for protecting the plants against the pathogenic bacteria. At the same time, of course, just like humans can get sick from various types of microbes, so can plants. And when plants get sick, it impacts not just the plants, but the animals and the humans that rely on those plants. And mixed up in all of this is what's going on in the environment, because what microbes and pests and pathogens can live in Michigan is different from those that maybe a plant would encounter in Florida. And whether or not suddenly we have winters where we don't have enough cold days to kill certain types of pests, that has an impact then that following spring, summer, and fall. And so you see this constant evolution, if you will, of what's going on in the environment. And what's going on in the environment then is impacting the plants, which is in turn impacting, of course, the plants and the humans. And then, of course, you have this interactions between the humans and the animals. We have these things called zoonotic diseases, right? You have these diseases which originate in animals, but somehow have found a way to jump into humans. And the way we interact with each other, the way we interact with the animals, all of this can have a huge impact on human health, which is also being itself impacted by what's going on in the environment. So that's the way I think about it. And it's why you can't separate out the environment from the plants, from the animals, from the people. We truly are all interconnected. And what impacts one really does, as I've just described, impact all of the others as well.
Well put, Eric. Great, great, great example, great illustration of not only the complexity of One Health, but the many levels in which research in all aspects of the system you describe can have a beneficial effect on productivity of agriculture, a beneficial effect on health of humans, a beneficial effect on health of the environment, and making the world a better place. So, Eric, there's a strong history of partnership between AgBioResearch and the College of Natural Science and the work in agriculture and natural resources. And we alluded to that earlier. And I know there's many areas where College of Natural Sciences research aligns with the concept of One Health. But I know a source of pride for the university as a whole and for AgBioResearch and for the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. And I know you well enough to know it's one of many sources of pride for your college is our work in the plant sciences. Can you talk about how the College of Natural Sciences research in general, and maybe a few examples on the plant science side, aligns with the concept of One Health?
Absolutely. I would say there's at least three different areas that to me are so obvious connections. I'll start with something that is very similar to what I was just talking about, the host microbe interactions, and that is our work looking at the how microbes are interacting with the plant roots, and how that can the soil microbiome, how those microbes can help transfer the nutrients, be it nitrogen or phosphorus, into the plants. And we've have a long history here at Michigan State University, both in our College of Natural Science, but also in the College of Ag and Natural Resources and AgBioResearch of this sort of soil ecology. And it is really just a critical component of plant health. And as you pointed out, it's a great point of pride in history for our college, and it also shows the way that we have one of the many ways that we have interacted. Another area which I think is really critical that where we've partnered together and is also critical from the Plant One Health area is the research going on in the PRL, or the DOE Plant Research Laboratory. And among other things, they're really interested in how you capture energy from the sun and turn it into plant biomass, and in a very sort of simplistic way of thinking about it. Well, simple to say, much harder to do the research, of course. And that is an area which is critical because it has a huge impact on the quality of the crops that we're able to produce. And as I said earlier, this is an area of great pride for us. And in fact, the PRL is celebrating its 60th anniversary here in just a couple of weeks. So that is a super exciting event, because that's been, I think, I guess I could be wrong, but I think that may be the longest running DOE plant lab in the entire country. And it has produced over those 60 years so much cutting edge research. It is truly amazing, and it continues the cutting edge research that's going on there right now. And so there's different ways one can think about how that energy can be captured. It can be sequestered and turned into oils and things like that. It can be the more traditional biomass that you might think about. And that biomass can be something that we would eat, but it could also be biomass that, for instance, might be turned into biofuels, which in and of itself is a critically important area that we haven't really touched on yet, but it's also part of this One Health. We need energy, but I think many of us would agree we can't keep burning fossil fuels at this rate. And there is a changing climate, and we have to be able to adapt to it. And if we can take, part of the productivity which is occurring in the many farm fields across Michigan, for instance, and convert that basically into a secondary funding source, you're helping not only the farmers by giving them an extra sort of a crop, if you will, but also helping the environment, helping rural America. This is really a critical area. And so the PRL has really been at the forefront of thinking about how we capture solar energy and convert it into plant energy that we can then use in so many different ways. And then the third area that I'm really proud of, and it's a great collaboration again between AgBioResearch, Ag and Natural Resources, and NatSci, is the Plant Resilience Institute. Started about, I don't know, you probably know better than I, about 8 years ago now, something like that. And the idea is, how do you make plants that are more resistant to the changing environment? And there are so many different ways that things are changing. and they can stress the plant. There can be water stress, either too much or too little stress. There can be nutrient stress, not enough nutrients, or in some cases, too much nutrients. There can be stress from different types of pests. How do you make the plants more resistant? Because, if the plants are under stress, they're not producing the food that we need in the same sort of way. And because all their energy is going into protecting themselves. And so we want to develop plants where they are just naturally more resistant to these stresses, and that can be in multiple different ways. Sometimes it's the plant microbe interactions. Sometimes it's just different flowering times. So, on and on and on. And so this is an area which has been going on, and it overlaps, as I just alluded to, with these other two areas, both the plant research lab and the idea of the host microbe interactions that we talked about earlier. So it's almost really there at the center of all of this. So those are just three examples. I know there are lots of others, but of course we collaborate in so many different ways. But those are the three top ones I'll point out for you.
Wow, Eric, three really great examples. What you touched on the work of the plant research laboratory and, sunlight, which is the cornerstone of the fuel that allows plants to grow, understand those basic mechanisms associated with plant growth. Critical to agriculture in the future as this country deals with challenges of how to feed itself by itself, remain food secure in the face of reduced amount of farmland, reduced number of farmers. What's important is helping farmers be more productive. And that type of fundamental research is absolutely critical to increasing productivity of agriculture as a whole. So very important basic research that advances knowledge, but has in the long term an intended impact that's foundational to agriculture. Likewise, go ahead. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, the other thing I can follow up on is the research that's going on in the context of the three things I just already talked about. But that points to something you just mentioned is the idea about keeping the nutrients in the soils. And this can one of the things that's particularly near and dear to my heart. Some of my own research focuses on this is how do you preserve nitrogen in the soil and reduce nitrogen loss. And that's just a really critical component of all of this as well. But you can also think about is how do you reduce carbon loss, other nutrients. So these are some really fundamental questions that have a huge impact, not only on the plants, but just on the health of the soil and the sustainability of the soil so that we can continue to grow the crops for decades and decades to come.
Yeah, great point. Biofuels, that's, equally important and relevant to agriculture. It's a tough time right now for farmers. Margins are small, meaning the difference between total revenues and costs of operation. That's a tough time in terms of making a living and breaking even. So we talk a lot about creating a circular agricultural economy and new commodities that farmers that can produce that have value, or different ways to use the products they're already producing in a different fashion to generate additional revenue. And biofuels are a big part of that, especially given the potential to grow some biofuels on what might be considered more marginal, less productive land. And looking at the needs for energy in the future and the growth of artificial intelligence, which is a whole nother topic, which we could talk an hour about, we won't get into depth about, and the need for data centers to support the artificial intelligence infrastructure and the energy associated with those data centers. We're going to need all the sources of energy we can to meet the needs of this country in the future from an industry perspective, from a consumer perspective, and biofuels can play an important role in that. And of course, the plant resilience piece, again, really, really critical to the long-term sustainability of agriculture and the ability of our farmers to feed the world, looking at the challenges farmers face with extreme weather, a changing environment, and how that impacts productivity, the need to develop new varieties of food crops, new varieties of biofuels that can grow and be productive in a changing environment. And given pests, bugs, diseases also dramatically change as the weather changes, we also need more tools in the toolbox to help our farmers deal with those challenges. So again, this fundamental research, this joint effort between College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, College of Natural Science, AgBioResearch, and the Office of Research and Innovation to bring faculty together to work in that area is so important to the future and so exciting to think about the potential of that work to really make a difference. And that's what it's all about. That's why we do research.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And when you were talking about the importance of the biofuels, one of the things that came to mind was another great collaboration between us that we haven't talked about yet, which is the Great Lakes Bioenergy Research Center, which is another Department of Energy funded research and endeavor. Again, completely basic research. And the idea, as the name may imply, is to understand how we can, convert other types of what we'll say non-food plant biomass into other products. Biofuels, obviously, being one of the major things, but not the only thing. And this has been going on. I mean, the research has been going on for a long time on this campus, but the particular GLBRC itself is getting close to 20 years old now. I think it started in 2007, so we're not quite at 20 years, but we're close. So again, it's long running collaboration between the colleges, and really what they're trying to do there is take the food part of the plant and convert it into other products, as I mentioned. And the reason that works is basically trying to deconstruct the cell wall. This is where, as you pointed out, the basic research is so important. If we think about the cell wall, it's composed primarily of two different components. There's kind of the sugar component, and those sugar components, can be turned into biofuels or other products. And then you've got another component which is called lignin, which is among other things what gives the plant cell wall kind of rigidity and kind of helps hold everything together. It also makes it less susceptible to being broken down by microbes and things like that. And it's a biopolymer that's really hard to work with, but it actually has a lot of energy involved in it. And so if we can figure out how to break down this intractable biopolymer that nature has made to protect the cell wall, we can actually use those compounds to turn them into other things. And there's a lot of research going on this campus, again, in collaboration between the two colleges on that. And in fact, I'm myself working with somebody in forestry, in ag and natural resources, trying to do just that, trying to take the lignin and convert it into other products. So it's a really exciting an exciting sort of research, in part because we see the possibilities. We see where things could be. And it will help, it helps not only the environment, it helps the farmers, it helps the people. And that is just so important. And my dream is to one day be driving a car with maybe my grandkids in the back seat and we're driving, sort of in maybe out in the country, and I slam my foot on the brakes as we pass a biofuels plant, and where they're deconstructing plant biomass and making different products from it, and I point to that and I say to my grandkids, look at that, you know. I did the research that helped make that possible. That would just be so cool. And that's my dream. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but that's my dream.
Well, fun to think about, Eric. And the other exciting thing about this new research focus or theme, which is emerging on campus, is those three areas that you talked about, which are great examples, all are directly tied to One Health. We just haven't historically talked about that work in that context, but what a great opportunity. Again, whether you're talking about the environmental benefits of biofuels, whether you're talking about the socioeconomic benefits to the agriculture industry of new products, new commodities, or whether you're talking about, feeding the planet. So I'm optimistic in the future there's going to be even more opportunities for this type of research that will really make a difference. And as we talk about it in the context of One Health, hopefully that will open new opportunities for support from traditional funders like the federal government, state agencies, foundations, and private individuals that recognize the strength that Michigan State University has and can bring to the table, and the ability of our research community to work together to solve these big societal problems and make the world a better place.
Absolutely, George. And you said a couple things there that really resonate with me. One is you talked about how, Michigan State is really poised to do something special in this area. And I couldn't agree more. And I think there's really two reasons for that. One is the fact that we've got some real historic strengths in these areas. We've already talked a lot about the plant microbial sciences, and the animal sciences as well. We've got a fantastic vet school. We also have a university that is really dedicated to serving Michigan. And one of the ways you see that is in extension, of course, the work that you all are doing, so important in every single county in Michigan. But we also see that in the health areas, in the College of Human Medicine and Osteopathic Medicine, who really work hard to connect with every single part of Michigan, and not just connect with them, but serve them. And so that's really critical. And that's a reason that we can make this huge impact. It's the strengths in these areas that we have in the plant sciences, the microbial science. We haven't even talked that much about the ecological sciences, but we've got huge impact and huge expertise and knowledge in the ecological area that I would say I'll put us up to just about any other university in the country. But there's one other thing we have that we've alluded to, but not really pointed out. We've talked about the collaborations that occur between ag natural resources, AgBioResearch, and natural science. And absolutely that's true. But it doesn't end there, right? We've got all three of these groups that I just mentioned have collaborations and interactions with essentially every other college on campus. And just speaking to my own college for a moment, natural science, we've got roughly 28 different programs and departments, and half of them are shared with other colleges. So we don't just talk about collaboration. We're like the epitome of collaboration. We that is in what we do. It's in our DNA. And these are wicked problems we're talking about when you think about One Health. The things that you and I have described, they don't sit in silos. They cut across all different fields. And so you need all different types of expertise, which is why you need an approach which brings together people from different colleges. And we can do that like nobody else can do it because we've already been doing it for so long. It is what makes MSU so strong. We just collaborate.
Spot on, Eric. I couldn't agree more. There is such tremendous potential for collaboration under the One Health umbrella, and that makes this new initiative so exciting and so promising. You know, from the AgBioResearch perspective, we pride ourselves on helping to contribute to those collaborations and support over 300 faculty in 7 different colleges. I think it's fair to say, and 100% true, that One Health is a research focus that is relevant and can impact every single college on the MSU campus. So, what a great opportunity to start to talk about the work we do differently, but more importantly, open the doors to really create some unique partnerships and collaborations that have so much potential to make an impact on human health, to make an impact on communities, and really transform the state of Michigan and transform the world. It's going to take investments to get there, but you know, the future is bright. And I so much look forward to doing everything I can. And I know we share that sentiment to help catalyze those collaborations in the future because it's really going to make a difference. And that inherent spirit of collaboration is what makes Michigan State University special.
Absolutely, and thanks for the opportunity to talk
Yeah.
about this because I'm always happy to talk about One Health, and you know I could talk about this for hours because really the opportunities for Michigan State to make a real impact on the world are almost limitless. And so this is just a real passion, and I'm so excited that we get to be part of it.